Gley was already touted as one of the best gun descendants in the game, pretty much ever since weapon cores became a thing and the community found the power behind Last Dagger as well as the restored Relic. Now since then Serena popped up and took the shine away a little, but with the latest hotfix Gley's finding a way to bridge that gap once more. No movement penalty when using your unlimited ammo spam, a damage buff in Frenzied for both firearms and explosives, and Predator Instincts even getting a nice buff, making weapons do even more damage as the time goes on. It's getting harder to recommend anyone over Gley anymore. So in today's video we'll be breaking down the changes done for my Gley build, my current go-to build that is for mobbing as well as going into Purge, looking at the go-to weaponry and the builds for them as well. We've got modules, Arche Tuning and components all to come, so as always we've got a lot to cover, and if that sounds good to you, then let's get to it. Alright then, so swapping into the module screen, after the hotfix got implemented, Predator Instinct is an absolute tasty option to grab here, essentially taking away our base buff and replacing it with one we get when we hold down that trigger. Now how this one works is that for the first second of firing we get a 0 boost to our firearm and explosive attack. After the first second we then get a 25% increase to firearm and 40% increase to explosive, and after the second and until you let go of the trigger, and that's i.e. basically when you're going to be activating your skill 3 once again, which is going to be increased sensory, you'll get a juicy 42% increase to your firearm attack and a whopping 70% to your explosive, which is absolutely perfect for the restored Relic. Now after that lovely damage increase, we now want to focus on things of quality of life, so we want to keep ourselves alive and upright, and that's going to be the name of the game, but we also want to balance our cooldowns and durations around our skill 3, so that then we'll be able to have our unlimited ammo and perfect for the spam that we're going to be doing. So starting with durability, we have increased HP and we also have Battle of Stamina. Now this is going to give us plenty of HP, especially in combination with our component cores, but we also have that nice added little bonus of an increase to our duration, because the longer that we have, the more time that we have when it comes to the uptime of Predator Instinct, and also the less time and less downtime when it comes to reactivating that ability once again. Now we also chuck in a focus on non-attribute here, which can be replaced with any of the focus on mods. You don't necessarily have to go for this one, as this one's only here to be able to help us with our cooldowns and to be able to make sure that we have that 100% uptime when it comes to our skill 3. Now we do combine that with Nimble Fingers as well as MP Conversion. This also makes the list, helping us be able to get that cooldown further, making it that nice little sweet spot when it comes to our skill 3, and as you can currently see with everything to do with the build, we're currently sitting at a cooldown of 9.8 seconds and a duration of 10.1. Now we are looking to improve our durations the highest that we can with both the skill extension mod as well as the maximized duration mod, and this does give us a total of 85.3% with the amount of that we're getting from Battle of Stamina as well that we've talked about earlier. Now as for the last 3 mods, there are a couple of things that you could absolutely be able to swap these out with. These are the ones that I found the best for my build, but you absolutely could swap these ones out. The first one is going to be Shield Conversion Defense. This one is going to give you a massive amount of defense, and it's just basically going to make you an absolute tank while you're out there in the field. It does have that downside of max shield, but because you're Gley you don't have access to a shield in the first place, so it is just pure upside, and it is the biggest amount of increase to the amount of defense that you do get across all the modules that I can find when it comes to the module screen that we can see here. On top of that we also have Walker Tightrope. Walker Tightrope, when your HP is 50% or lower, you will then get a bonus to your firearm as well as your firearm or your explosive attack of 30%, so this means that as you start taking a little bit more damage, especially in those higher Purge levels, as you start soaking up some of those shots, you will then be able to start hitting back a little bit harder when it comes to your Relic. And then on top of that we also have Shot Focus. Now this one isn't going to be helping your restored Relic in any kind of way, but what it will do is help you out with your last Dagger, and that is going to be your single target damage, perfect for absolutely melting those elites. So therefore it is still a really nice option to be able to have in there. It is extra damage at the end of the day, but because of the amount of it's only helping out certain weapons, and it's the kind of the jurisdictions and the stipulations as to when these kind of trigger and all that kind of thing, you absolutely could swap these ones out if you need to. If you need a little bit more HP, if you need to be able to go through a field, you absolutely could swap those in, but this is the best combination I've personally found, and this fits my playstyle absolutely fantastically. Now reactor-wise, because Gley is a gun-based descendant, the actual reactor itself doesn't really matter, as we don't have a way to benefit from any kind of skill power, so for this reason it's more important to be able to focus on those rolls, and in this case going for those rolls at the bottom we do want to be able to get cooldown and duration up, and that does make it best in slot. This gives us 100% uptime of our increased sensory, and it allows us to be able to spam away with our Relic as well as our Dagger to our heart's content. Now as for the component side of things, Gley relies on durations and cooldowns to be able to keep a downtime to a minimum, so ideally we do want to be able to go for our duration as high as possible, so we don't have to recast as often and stop firing. For this reason we are going to go for a 2-piece into Firebrand and a 2-piece into Shell Crusher. This allows us to be able to max out our weapon DPS through the fire rate increase, but it also gives us the biggest boost to duration through that of the Firebrand set, adding into what our modules and our reactor already offer to us. Now roles wise, HP and defense and resistances are going to be best in slot here, but wholly not really necessary for her to be able to run really well. As she can't benefit from the MP and the shield rolls, these rolls are kind of dead to her, so it's best to be able to keep those resistances topped up. So for example, when it comes to auxiliary power, going into max HP and then go to fire resistance would be best in slot. When it comes to the sensor, max MP, going into chill resistance is also going to be the better one there. When it comes to the memory, defense and also the electric resistance is going to be best there. And then lastly, toxin resistance is going to be ideal when it comes to your processor. Of course, when it comes to the component cores, max HP and defense across the board are pretty much going to be what you need. You absolutely could be able to potentially swap out some of them for resistances if you're finding that you're struggling a little bit against specific types of enemies, but to be honest with you, in terms of like generic kind of playthrough when it comes to Gley, I've not found any kind of issues running this, so max HP and defense across the board is the way forward. Now when it comes to the weaponry side of things, this will be a bigger section than other times that we've talked about in previous videos, and the reason why is because I've had to do a little bit of maths behind some of them, especially the last Dagger, to be able to try and get the right kind of build for you. And what we're actually going to do is kick it off with the mobbing side of things, so that is going to be the Restored Relic, and this is going to be your main mobbing gun. With max fire rate, we can easily wipe the floor with all types of mobs. Now, ideally cool to be able to match the weakness of the enemies, but fire attack rolls will still work for Purge 10 at a minimum alongside running a chill build, but the fire rating cores are going to be the important ones, allowing us to be able to hit that 600 RPM when combined with modules and the 2-piece of the Shell Crusher. So we do have 3 rolls into fire rate, 2 rolls into fire attack. If you do have a second Restored Relic, you absolutely could go for chill attack. Feel free to be able to do that. It will make things a little bit easier for your Purge 10 runs. When it comes to the rolls at the very bottom, fire attack, explosive attack, multi-hit damage and multi-hit chance are absolutely fantastic for this weapon. Being able to get even more damage and chance when it comes to multi-hit is the way forward, because it is a little bit more consistent than trying to go into a crit build. If we have a quick look in terms of the modules, this is what I currently run when it comes to Gley. The only 2 things that you will be changing if you are planning on going into Purge level 10s will be that of the fire enhancement as well as the fire priority, and you will be swapping those out to be able to go for chill as well as chill priority, and that is going to be the best way to be able to maximize your DPS when it comes to Purge level 10. When it comes to the actual rolls, and when it comes to this, we have got multi-piercing, we have gone for multi-percussion. This is going to give you the best multi-hit chance and multi-hit damage without sacrificing on your fire rate, which we absolutely do need. We also have increased radius and ammo optimization, making our radius much larger, and that allows that every single shot to be able to affect multiple enemies all at the same time. Multi-bullet is going to be winding the rest of the amount of damage that we will be doing with multi-hits, and it also helps with a little bit of extra damage over time, so that's also quite a nice slot in here. Fire rate up is a mandatory, it has to go in there. And then lastly, we do have charge amplification in action and reaction, and that is going to be boosting the amount of explosive attack that we do have as base. It's charge amplification because we've already decimated our critical hit damage. It makes sense to be able to go for that instead of rifling reinforcement because it gives us a bigger boost, and it doesn't really have the downside of the critical hit damage because we've already decimated it anyway over on this side. So now we get to talk about the last Dagger, as this is going to be your bossing gun of choice, and this is where a little bit of maths kind of tends to come into it. This is going to be your insane single target DPS, and is ideally used against stubborn elites or those aim bosses of dungeons as well as Purge. Now for Purge 10 we will want to run a crit build with weak point multipliers alongside that chill element, but it is worth farming multiple copies so you have a Dagger of each element to handle all content, because the weapon is just that strong. Now cores wise, you will want to have your chosen element as number 1, then 2 firearm attacks and 2 fire rate cores to take advantage of Gley's ultimate ammo. As you can currently see, I am just missing that 1% on the fire rate, but that will manage to like propel the weapon to even more DPS, which is kind of nutty, so I am trying to farm out those extra cores and try and get lucky. So that I would absolutely recommend that you try and get these maxed out when you can. Now as for the build side of things, we're going to be speccing into weak point and crit damage heavily, both with chill, enhance and priority to boost the elemental side of things, and lastly choosing between mental focus or sharp precision shot for that last slot. Now after doing the testing in the lab, both rock very similar DPS outputs across the 10.5 seconds and the mag of the gun that I was doing at the time, with the biggest gap that I found between mental focus having a 2% damage increase over SPS purely for weak point average on level 260 Legion of Darkness, but this test did involve the target moving a fair bit, hence the several tests that I did run and then doing an average, so it isn't really a definitive reason for using it just by itself. Now there are 3 reasons that I would suggest that you do use mental focus over that of SPS. Number 1 is how stacks of SPS disappear once you let go of that fire button, but mental focus stick around long enough just for you to be able to activate that ability again, meaning that over several activations of that ability you will keep the firearm attack boost instead of resetting. Now the second reason relates to an Ornery Biscuits video talking about fire rate being capped at 2000 RPM, and with SPS you will be going over that 2000 RPM as you stack, meaning that you will be losing out on one of the main reasons that mod is being used for, and explains why the tests were comparable. Now lastly, while sorting footage for this build, I discovered that the Restored Relic weirdly can trigger stacks of mental focus before you fire, making it much quicker to hit that max bonus and increasing your DPS. Now in this clip you can see that we hit over 80 stacks before we even fired a single bullet, and from what I can tell this relates to the launcher either hitting enemies after swapping or the additional projectiles that spawn after the main hit, counting as bullets that are coming from the last dagger. Either way, while both options are great, I would have to give the edge to mental focus here, but it is fairly close and you definitely can get away with either one. Now Arche Tuning wise, we're focusing on gun damage of course because this is a gun based build, so we want to hit up on that left side of the board, and due to the investment into Relic and multi-hit, it makes sense for us to be able to go and grab the capstone for chance and damage on the far end. Now we do go and grab the crit damage nodes as well, because while it doesn't do anything for our Relic, it will be boosting up the damage of our Dagger as we won't be swapping out boards in between every fight, so having that on hand is going to be ideal for mopping up those elites. Now lastly, the nodes of accuracy here are great to be able to help counteract that accuracy loss that we do have when we slot in have aiming on our dagger, and it helps us to be able to keep on target. Inversion wise, we can only boost our damage with one section, and the rest will then give us a little bit more durability. Focus rounds are going to be needed to be able to match the enemy's weakness, with Purge 10 having chill for example, but you can easily get away with just boosting your fire damage for most activities. Now recovery wise, we will be grabbing selective cellular for HP regen as we play, as Gley is notorious for running through our HP pool at times, and then lastly we can either grab Adrenaline Rush to be able to help us with movement speed, or for more staying power we can grab Antibody Explosion for some added resistances. And with all that out of the way, that wraps it up for my Predator-Gley build, designed for wrecking face in Purge runs and demolishing speedruns inside of Sigma Sector. It's crazy to think that back in the beta of this game, Gley was top dog with a Massacre build, and now a year on we're back to her feeling pretty meta again, but with gun builds this time. My, how the times have changed. But this is the section I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Gley after the hotfix? Do you think she's meta relevant now? And lastly, will you be hitting up Season 3 when it drops next month? Let me know all that and more down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. As I always say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well. I'll see you all on the next video.